Hi, hello, and welcome back to Miraki's Method. This is Rock and Roleplay, and today we're going to be talking about writing roleplay profiles for your characters. Last week we went in and looked at my Total Roleplay, which is an add-on you can use in World of Warcraft to create in-game profiles for your characters, kind of like a character sheet in D&D, and the kind of things you'd have on a tabletop, but a little bit less numbers heavy and a little bit more narratively focused. So today we're going to talk about what to actually write in those profiles when you're making them. Last week we looked at where and how you would go about putting in the formatting and where you put your descriptions and things like that. And the week before that we looked at the settings behind the entire add-on. So today we're going to look at actually writing that profile to put into that add-on to make sure you're doing your character the most justice and helping your own roleplay along as best as you can. So first of all, let's talk about why you need, to be fair, you don't need to have a PRP installed. You don't need to have a roleplay profile. A good place to put the disclaimer that I am also not a professional. I don't make the rules. I'm not deciding what's right and wrong for roleplay. You have to do that for yourself. Everyone is here for different kinds of stories and different kinds of characters. You just need to find what works for you and do that, and hopefully do that without ruining things for other people and without telling them what they should and shouldn't be doing. So long as everybody's being safe and consensual, everybody enjoys different types of roleplay, and that is okay. That's why there's so many different roleplay games out there for people as well. So this is just my opinion, my experience, and my beliefs on what makes a good roleplay profile and how useful I think those can be. You may disagree. If you do, you're welcome to leave that in the comments down below, as long as you do so in a civil and polite manner. I'm absolutely down for a conversation about it. But let's get into it. So you've got this add-on that allows you to write this profile, but why do you put this effort into putting this description together for your character? I believe it will genuinely help you get access to roleplay, and not only that, but get access to the kind of roleplay that you want. Like I said before, not all roleplay is for everyone. Some people enjoy military kind of roleplay. Some people really don't enjoy military roleplay. So putting together your profile in such a way that it explains your character and the concept, and it'll allude to the kinds of RP you want to get involved in, is going to help you, and it's going to help other people know what they're engaging with when they engage with you. So it'll help you access the kind of roleplay you want to a lot faster, and it helps your character be more present in the world. We're limited in terms of roleplay online on platforms like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy and SWTOR. We're limited somewhat with the models that we can make and the character customization that's on offer or not on offer, as the case may often be. So we are limited in the kind of characters that we can make, and that's not really, it's not so much the game dev's fault, because there's no way they could make a game that's capable of housing the amount of variations they would need to make everyone happy. Now they can always do a bit more, I think. No, don't get me wrong, not on the they can always do a bit more. There's always room for more customizations, but it would be literally impossible to have every kind of customization possible that anyone might want in game and available. So that's what your description can do. Your description builds on the base of your avatar and adds to that, and basically fleshes it out to make it personalized, to make it your own, and having a description in game allows other people to be able to see and to read that, to know what they're looking at, and to know what they're engaging with, and it makes the experience for both you and them a bit more immersive. Because if they don't know what you look like, say you have a big scar on your face but you don't have TRP, nobody else can see that, nobody else can know that, so they won't be able to react to that, which is going to make you feel, it's going to damage your immersion unless you're constantly emoting to tell people that. And if you're constantly emoting to tell people that, you're wasting a lot of time. You could be doing a lot more characterful and more constructive and building stuff. So profiles allow us to take all of that out, put it in a profile so that everybody knows what's going on. We can creatively world build this story together, and profiles help us do that. So before we get into writing our actual profile, you need to have a think about your character, about the kind of impression you want to put across with them about the key points of what the message you're trying to send with your profile. There's no point waffling on for 3 pages about every little detail of their appearance, because nobody's going to read it. So you're going to need to keep your descriptions descriptive but concise, to the point where they're easy for people to digest, to read, and engaging enough that they're interesting and not, vague. But we'll get more on that later. But the key point is that before you start, you need to know what you're aiming for. You need to know where you're trying to go and what direction you're trying to take it. Is this character going to be a knight? Are they going to be someone respectable, someone in high society perhaps? Or is this someone who's like, just a commoner, a pauper, a criminal? What kind of vibe are you trying to put off with them and elicit from other people? Because that's going to be the key focus that you're going to want. Key themes is basically what you're trying to get here, and you're trying to work out what those are for you, so that you can then work those into your description in subtle, narrative, encouraging ways. So you know the kind of themes that you're going for, you know the key points that you want to hit on, and you know the kind of air that you want to give off. There's a few do's and don'ts before we get into writing profiles. There's a few do's and don'ts, I believe. Anyway, again, disclaimer, I don't make the rules. But let's get into those. First is, don't force observations. A lot of people will start off their roleplay profiles fairly innocently, with the first thing you will notice, or you will feel such and such about this character, or you will find this character attractive. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. If you're using the word you, scrap that sentence and start again. You shouldn't be telling other people what they're noticing. You shouldn't be telling them what your character's making them feel, and you shouldn't be telling them what they find attractive or don't find attractive. You don't get to decide basically what other people think and feel. You only get to present your character as they stand. So any sentence that starts with you should probably go. But something you could replace it with is, instead of the first thing you will notice, which I think people do innocently, they don't intend to force an observation with it. It's just a chosen wording. But something you could write instead of the first thing you will notice is something that's very obvious, or very obviously this character has, a big scar on their face that or there's evidently something else. There's a lot of different words, and those are more engaging as well, because they make it clear that that's a poignant part of that character's appearance. And you can make something a striking part of the character's appearance with lots of different words. You don't have to just straight tell people that the first thing they're going to notice is that. Because again, you don't notice. You don't know that. The first thing they could notice is the colour of their hair instead of their face. Before the first thing they could notice is the way they're dressed instead of something on their face or something like that. So you don't know or get to decide what other people notice first, or what it makes them feel. So I would steer away from doing any of that. The second one is to don't start all your sentences with the same word. So don't say, he is tall and very broad. He also has blue eyes and blonde hair. He wears such and such clothes. He is very likable and charming. He has a bag that his foot. You started every single sentence with he, and it just gets a bit. It's not something you notice per se. It's something you could do quite easily, but it just makes everything sound a bit dry, a bit repetitive, and a bit simplified. Whereas you can mix it up very, very easily. So you can throw in the man was, and then the he was. You could use the name, or you can just scrap the whole her, his element to it, and just go into something like the knight, as a knight of, or as a commoner, as a butcher. Start something like that. Just shake it up. Start your sentences with different little phrases and things. It adds a lot. I think it's very subtle, but I think that it makes your whole the finished product look a lot more polished and a lot more interesting and engaging and readable than if you're starting it all with the same word over and over again. Again, if you're stuck with any of these, drop into our Discord, post your thing up. We'll see if we can help you out if you're struggling. Absolutely happy to help. The third one is, don't use too many descriptive words. Her energetic, enigmatic, and alluring wild emerald eyes are, at that point you've lost it. You've come, the person can't visualize that many things at the same time in relation to her eyes. By the time they've got through that sentence, they've gone. They've lost it. So 5 descriptive words, far too many. It's very overwhelming. They all become redundant. If there's too many of them, they all mean nothing because nobody can collate all those things together in terms of, one simple structure. So 2 or less tops. That's my rule. I never use more than 2 if I can help it. If I've noticed, please don't go checking all my TRPs now to see if I've used more than 2. I don't think I have, but maybe. So I always stick to two or less descriptive words for any particular thing, and I try to vary them up as well. So I will have perhaps one that is a descriptive word, like a color or a shape or whatever it is, that a physical description, and the second one I'll try to keep more thematic, perhaps emotive. So if I'm talking about her eyes, you talk about the color, but then you also kind of talk something about like are they cold, are they warm, are they bright, so that you get kind of the vibe as well as the color. So that's the way I generally try to work my 2 descriptive words. I'll pick one that describes the actual physical thing, and I'll pick another that kind of describes the atmosphere, to try and build back into that theme. So for example, my main character is a stoic businessman. So my main themes there were very professional. I want him to be a bit professional, standoffish, maybe a bit cold, those kind of things. So you bring those in. You can have, he has cold eyes, maybe he has his posture, you can bring that into his posture as well. And if you're using those little descriptive words throughout your description, they'll build back into that theme, and you'll basically get a whole picture that puts forward a character that's exactly the right kind of vibe that you were going for in the first place, because you were mindful of it in the start and then you've threaded it all the way through. Number 4 is don't be vague. Don't be vague. People can see your avatar. They can see the character model. You don't need to be telling them like she is what you see. We can see that. We can see what we can see. We don't need to be told that. A similar vein is seems to have been injured a lot in his life is a bit too vague. Like, okay, there's nothing people can do with that. It's very ungrounding. For example, it's possible they such and such, but is it or isn't it? If it's possible, that doesn't give the character that's reading it anything that they can work with. Or she might, again, there's no point. So don't be vague, be decisive and be direct. If they have scars, write about them. Detail them. Say, oh, he's got a nasty gash on the left side of his face, for example, and you don't need to list, if they do have a lot of scars, you don't need to list them all. Just pick the ones that you think people will notice and that are really thematic and then maybe have a good hook or a good story about it, and just be descriptive about those particular scars, and that will help lend to that idea that they've been injured a lot of life, while also giving people something that they can hook into in RP, and they can say, oh, that looks like a really bad scar on your face, how did that happen, whereas they can't do that with seems to have been injured a lot, because they can't point out any of those. They can't have their character react to those. They can't say, oh, I have a similar one to that, on my, exactly. It's just not going to work in terms of being constructive. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get across an image of our character, but we're also trying to fish. We're trying to fish for a role play. So we're trying to get other people interested in them and give other people little hooks and little things that they can react to and say and ask about if they do decide to approach your character. Yeah, so that's basically the goal here as well. Number 5 is don't overcomplicate things. You don't need to describe unnecessary items in great detail. Clothes and armor, unless it's very, very central to that character or very, very unique, you can generally get away with giving your entire outfit a two-word descriptor. Remember, we don't do more than 2 words. So like smart, dressed well, clothes are clean and well made. That gives you an opinion. You can maybe go for colours. If there's anything in particular, you can pick it out. You can just say something like, they dress very well. They're very well presented. They often wear a very noticeable bright red coat that has such and such on the, you can get descriptive about the parts that are important, but for the most part, you don't need to overcomplicate and describe every little detail of every little item that they're wearing when it's not important to the character. Again, at that point, you're looking back at those key themes that you decided at the start, and you're using those to work out what's relevant information to get across the idea that you're trying to convey with the character. And lastly, number 6 is do leave some mystery. If you want to highlight a specific detail, like a weapon, etc., don't tell them the name, don't tell them where you got it. Just make a point of describing what it looks like and why it's so unusual. And let them come to you and ask you about why it's, what has it got a name, where did it come from, where did you get it, how did you get it, and leave that all for in character. That's all good role play that you can absolutely capitalize on. So don't ruin that for yourself by putting it all into your description anyway. So leave a little bit of mystery. Get people interested, get them intrigued, give them a few snippets, little, tasters of things, that are going on below the surface here, and make them come and try and dig out the mystery. It basically creates instant roleplay hooks. I'm all about roleplay hooks. I think the more things you can drop out there to try and get people engaged, the more things you can throw into a conversation that give people something to reply to. Roleplay hooks can come in any kind of size or variety, in my opinion. We're going to talk more about them in a different topic entirely dedicated to just the idea concept of a roleplay hook. But your profile is a great place to put a lot of them in, because you can get a lot out of that. Okay, so at this point, I hope you've gone through this. You've looked at your character. You've decided on your theme and your concept. You know what you're trying to say with them, the kind of vibe you're trying to give off, and you've gone through what they actually look like, and you've made a list of their physical appearance, their clothing, anything else that's relevant and important to their concept that you're going to detail. So now we're going to put it all together into an actual profile that you're going to type up into your TRP. Also, as a disclaimer here, a side point, type this up in Google Documents or in Word or in Notepad or somewhere on your computer and save a copy, because TRPs wipe all the time and people lose them and it's awful. So always, always, always back up your files or make a copy document, or even just type it out in a document before you copy paste it into TRP. Don't write it in TRP natively and leave it there only. It's just a recipe for disaster. This is your word of warning. Make a copy. Okay, when it comes to writing your profile and structuring your character description, there's a few different schools of thought. Some people think shorter is better. Some people think you need a longer description to get the actual details in. I'm not going to tell you which way is right and wrong, because again, I don't know. I'm not a professional. I generally stick with about 3 shortish paragraphs for most of my descriptions. I think that's manageable. It fits in one screen without having to expand it. It's something someone can read without having to take too much time about it, but it's something that gives enough information across to get a proper idea of the character. In my opinion, that's the sweet spot. Yours might be different. That's entirely up to you. If you're struggling with structuring your profile together, I would start with a very simple formula of go from far away inwards. The same way as someone who's meeting your character, who's actually, approaching them for the first time, will see it. So they're coming from far away, they're approaching your character, they're going to see the big picture first. So I'd use that first paragraph to describe how tall they are, their build, their hair color, their clothing type, all those big things that you see first of all. And then I use the second one to describe how they look up close, like what's their face and their facial details like, colours their eyes, details on their clothes maybe, all those little bits that you don't see until later. And then the last one I use for a more characterful one that talks about perhaps how they hold themselves, how they act, what kind of emotions they portray or what kind of mannerisms they have, and little hooks and things like that allow people to get a feel for them. Because if you walk up to someone, you don't see them T-posing in the street. You get a feel for them because you can see if they're smiling, you can see if they're not, you can see if they're distracted and looking, to the corners or whatever. So you get all those things if you meet someone in real life. So those are the kind of things that I try to wrap into that third paragraph. So I go body, details, personality. That's the way I structure mine. If I'm struggling, you might just be able to put pen to paper and whiz out a brilliant description without even having to think about it. But if you are struggling, that's a nice little breakdown to help you get your thoughts in order and get them categorized. And I think it works quite well for the process of meeting a new character, because it's like that lead in to the details of that character. And then you can do little extra bits as well if you wanted to put in links. We talked last week about formatting TRP and adding links and things like that. I add links to like my mood board on Pinterest, their playlist. I don't know if anybody, and their artwork. I don't know if anybody clicks those links, but they're there if anybody does want to get a further vibe of the character. So you can do all those fun little things as well in TRP to jazz it up, make it exciting looking. But that's the general idea of how I create and structure my descriptions, and what I think is the best way to do it. And that's all there is to it. So I hope that helps you. I hope you found it useful. I have a blog post on this topic as well that I will link down below, as well as the past episodes that will be in the cards up here at some point. And if you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you disagree, if you agree, let me know down below in the comments and I will definitely get back to you. Again, you will find all our social links down below, our Discord link down below, and all of that good stuff. And we will be back next time with, I think we're talking about retconning next time, which is a bit of a spicy topic, so hopefully we'll get through that okay. But until then, friends, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.